Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going far beyond the usual Tokyo hotspots, the neon and skyscrapers. We're heading into a neighborhood that is, well, it's pretty much a living history book. The Irohakai Shotengai.
Right. It's a fascinating place.
And our mission in this deep dive is really to understand this street. It's located right on this volatile border between Taitō and Arakawa wards near Minami Senju.
Yeah, Minowa as well.
And we're not looking at it as just a shopping district, but more as a living museum. We're going to trace its entire story from this Taisho era high society vice all the way to the post-war capital of working class struggle. And through all of that, how it became the legendary setting for one of Japan's most famous manga, Ashita no Joe.
And the sources we've pulled together for this are, they're really interesting. They give us an unusually sharp view of that whole transformation.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking at historical accounts that detail its founding, over 100 years ago, its connection to the Yoshiwara Pleasure Quarter, the whole Sanya labor hub.
And then it jumps right into the modern day.
Exactly. We have these archived reports that capture the sheer physical shock of the street's identity just being ripped away when they removed its iconic arcade.
It's an incredible journey, both geographically and sociologically. Going from catering to the wealthiest patrons one day to housing the poorest laborers the next.
Yeah.
So let's start there. Let's unpack those deep foundational roots.
Okay, so we're talking about a history that began over a century ago. The street association itself was formed around Taisho 8, which is 1919.
Wow, that's far back.
It is. But its importance, really, it all stems from its location. Irohakai was situated directly on the old Nikokaido,
which was the main road.
The main artery leading straight to the famous Yoshiwara Yukaku, the licensed pleasure quarter.
I see.
So you have to think of it this way. The street pretty much existed to service all the human traffic that was constantly flowing around Yoshiwara.
Well, it wasn't just a convenient road then. It was part of the whole ecosystem.
Precisely. It was the area where the danishu, these wealthy, often merchant-class patrons, would pass through, especially on their way back.
So if you were returning from, say, an expensive all-night excursion in Yoshiwara, maybe a little worse for wear,
right,
but you had to, maintain appearances, or buy one last gift, you'd be passing right through the Irohakai.
That's exactly it. And the businesses on the street, they adapted to this. We see records of places like Owariya, a fabric shop.
Okay.
And they stocked goods that were perfectly suited for gifts to the high-ranking courtesans. In its earliest days, this street was just teeming with people, fueled entirely by the economic engine of the pleasure quarter.
But at the same time, the area was already laying the groundwork for a completely different identity. Its post-war identity.
Yeah.
How did it manage to span that huge economic gap?
Well, it's all about density and historical precedent. Even way back in the Edo period, the area right around the Teardrop Bridge, the Namidabashi intersection, it was known for Kichinjuku.
And those were
extremely cheap, very simple inns. Hostels, basically. They were just temporary spots for travelers who couldn't afford proper lodgings.
So the foundation for cheap accommodation was already there.
It was. And after World War II, as Japan kicks into its huge economic recovery, this location just cements its identity as Sanya, the capital's #1 yoseiba.
Oh, yoseiba, right. That's a gathering place.
Literally. It's the labor market where day laborers would assemble every single morning, just hoping to get picked for construction or industrial work.
So Sanya wasn't just a place to live. It was the essential, often brutal organizational hub for millions of transient workers that were needed to power Japan's high-growth period.
Yes, it was a massive logistical system. And these workers, they moved from sleeping in tents at first to simple barracks, and then eventually into this incredibly high density of basic, cheap inns known as doya.
Doya. That's like the 20th century version of the old Kichinjuku. Right?
Yeah, exactly. They're these vertical housing units just packed tight, catering specifically to that single transient worker who just needs a bed for the night.
What's so fascinating is the social context here. This community, which was literally foundational to the national economic miracle, was at the same time overlooked, stigmatized, and just associated with this deep societal prejudice. It was the gritty underbelly that, the post-war government preferred to keep hidden.
And that stigma is still a challenge. The high-growth period is long over, but now the area faces these severe issues of an aging population, isolation, and continued poverty. This is a street that has seen the absolute best and the absolute worst of Tokyo's economic history.
That history of grit and struggle makes the street's most famous cultural link all the more powerful. which is where we move from the history books to, well, the pages of a masterpiece. The connection to Ashita no Joe.
The legendary boxing manga.
For anyone who doesn't know, Ashita no Joe is the story of Joe Yabuki, an orphan, a street brawler who finds his purpose in boxing, all while training in the slums of a fictional Doyakai.
And the Irohakai, with that teardrop bridge at its corner, became the living, breathing inspiration for it. It was the physical manifestation of Joe's struggling hometown.
The sources really show how perfectly the atmosphere of the place matched the fiction.
But absolutely. The visual language of the street, the narrow road, the cheap little eateries, that pervasive sense of, like, hard work and desperation, it made it an instant pilgrimage site. The poverty and determination you see in the manga were right there, visible in the Sanya community.
It gave the area this powerful, defiant voice that it just didn't have otherwise.
It really did.
And of course, that whole identity is cemented by the statue of Joe Yabuki right near the entrance. He's this symbol of a hero born out of destitution.
A critical cultural anchor. And what's interesting is how the local businesses, recognized this fame and tried to capitalize on it, often with some surprising creativity.
You're talking about the anecdote with the Joe's glove bread.
Yes. That detail really humanizes the whole thing.
It does. We learned about one of the old sutsai or side dish shops that teamed up with a yakitori place to sell bread shaped like Joe's boxing glove.
It's fantastic.
And it wasn't some polished tourist gimmick. It was this deeply local effort to tie the street's cultural status to its actual day-to-day business. Kind of reflects the resilience you see in the manga's characters themselves.
The street became cinematically recognizable because of Joe, but for decades, its actual physical form, its whole atmosphere, was defined by this massive structure that just darkened everything.
And that brings us to Section 3, the arcade. A 300-meter-long, full-cover roof installed in Showa 51, so 1976. For a whole generation, this roof was Irohakai.
Absolutely. If you look at photos from, say, the 2010s, the street was often called a tunnel street. The atmosphere was dark, perpetually shadowed, and quiet. It was the definition of a shutter street, with most of its 120-plus shops permanently closed.
It sounds visually oppressive.
It was. And the darkness just amplified the street's social reality. The sources describe how that permanent sheltered space under the roof became a sanctuary for the homeless population of Sanya.
So people were living under it?
Yes. You would find people sleeping there, surrounded by abandoned bikes and other refuse. This created what local writers called a unique, depressing atmosphere, or the Zak chaos of Tokyo. The physical structure was literally holding the neighborhood's struggles under wraps.
And then, just like that, it vanished. I mean, incredibly abruptly. The removal of that roof was more than just a renovation. It was like removing an entire era.
It was a monumental, sudden erasure. Because of severe aging and deterioration in Rikika, the decision was made to take the arcade down. This happened around late 2017, early 2018. The change was just swift and total.
But the sources also hint that the timing was maybe a little too perfect. Was it just deterioration, or was this also linked to Tokyo getting ready for the 2020 Olympics?
That's the critical insight. While deterioration was the official reason, the removal was undoubtedly accelerated. Reports show the Tokyo government spent billions of yen, a huge sum, to dismantle this structure quickly. And that kind of spending, that urgency, was tied directly to the desire to clean up and modernize Tokyo's image before the world arrived.
And what about the people who were using it for shelter?
Well, that social aspect of the cleanup was widely reported. The people sleeping under the arcade were reportedly displaced, moved into temporary accommodations, hotels even, as part of this overall strategy to make the area more presentable.
So it's this perfect storm of structural necessity and political expediency. You address a real safety concern while also removing a very visible symbol of poverty.
Right. It's a classic urban renewal dilemma. And it fundamentally shifted the character of Irohakai overnight. Where there was darkness, suddenly there was openness. You could see the blue sky. The street instantly became, just a regular street. Brighter and airy, yes, but it lost the very atmospheric grit that defined its Showa-era character and its connection to the world of Ashita no Joe.
It went white, in a sense, like Joe Yabuki at the end of his last fight. The struggle is still there, but the outward signs have been stripped away.
Well said.
What's truly remarkable, though, is that through all of this, from Yoshiwara to Sanya, the dark arcade, the big cleanup, the soul of the community is still there. It's anchored by the incredible resilience of the shopkeepers who remain.
They are the living continuity of Irohakai, and we need to appreciate their longevity. Many of them trace back to the street's founding in the Taisho or early Showa eras. These aren't just shops, they're historical markers.
So how did these legacy businesses survive such radical economic swings?
Okay, take Hirano-ya, the yakitori shop. It was founded in Taisho 7, 1918, before the association even existed, and it originally sold footwear.
Footwear to yakitori, that's quite a pivot.
It is. That shop, same family, survived the transition from selling high-end goods to Yoshiwara patrons to selling quick, affordable yakitori to day laborers. The current owner even heads the street association. That's a commitment spanning 3 eras of Tokyo.
Incredible.
Or another one is Omiya, a dried goods and snacks shop from 1922. They started as a specialist in bonito flakes, a key high-quality ingredient. But crucially, they didn't just sell to people off the street.
They supplied other businesses.
Exactly. They became part of the supply chain for all the tiny local eateries that popped up to feed the massive labor force. Their survival was about being indispensable to the working community.
So it was never about tourist traffic. It was about serving the people who were actually there.
That's it. And then there's Matsumatoya, a menswear shop from the late Meiji era. The proprietress there gave a direct account of the economic shift. She talked about how client tastes changed from expensive, tailored items to less costly, more durable clothing as the day laborer population grew. These shops are like economic seismographs.
And now that the oppressive roof is gone, we can actually see the architecture that survived all those decades underneath. You can see these examples of Kanban Kinchiku.
Kanban Kinchiku, right, signboard architecture. It's this uniquely Japanese style from the early Showa period where the front of the building is built flat, like a modern sign, to maximize ad space, hiding the traditional wooden structure behind it.
So it was designed to be seen.
Designed to stand out. But for over 40 years, these facades, like on the Mashiman tea shop or the Kobayashiya hardware store, were completely obscured by that dark tunnel. Their sudden visibility after 2018 it's a testament to the post-war efforts of these families. It creates this beautiful, if a little melancholy, contrast against the wide-open sky.
The removal of the roof gave the street back its architectural ghosts.
That's a great way to put it.
So we've tracked Irohakai from its foundation servicing luxury to being the hub of labor, through its years as a dark street that inspired an icon, to its present state as this bright, quiet road. What's the feeling there now?
It's deeply quiet. Anyone who visits will notice the lack of constant foot traffic that used to define it. It attracts a very specific kind of visitor now, people who are looking for deep Tokyo, not mainstream tourists. But that sense of resilience, the spirit of those original shopkeepers, you can still feel it.
The street has endured so much physical and economic trauma. It literally shed its last visual link to the gritty Showa era to face the 21st century.
And that brings us right back to the question posed by its famous son, Joe Yabuki, which way tomorrow?
Yeah. Irohakai has always reinvented itself to serve a necessary population, whether it was pleasure seekers, laborers, or now maybe budget travelers using the modernized cheap inns. The next wave of change is always coming in Tokyo.
Always.
So what's the next chapter for this resilient corner?
Yeah.
Will the newfound visibility of these beautiful old buildings attract a new generation of business owners, or will the quiet just deepen? What does tomorrow truly look like for the Iroha Shoten Guy?